This is DIY Hi-Fi Life. Today we have the scoop on the brand new Purifi amplifier, the 1ET7040SA. Today on DIY Hi-Fi Life.
For instance, a typical example that I've noticed in the past, which has to do with amplifiers, is that I've received a fair number of emails from people who were inveterate valve fanatics until they got one of my Class D amplifiers. They said, "Oh, I sold my valve amps." And so what that means to me is that actually they probably had a legitimate gripe with a large number of solid state amplifiers that do something wrong that valve amplifiers don't. So it's not that they so much want the coloration of the valve amplifier, it's actually that I mean, everyone has not so much a different preference for what they want to hear, but what they don't want to hear. Some people might have trouble with some of the high frequency distortion of transistor amplifiers and not value the low distortion that they have lower down the audio band, and vice versa. Everyone has a different thing that they are willing to put up with. And so if you present them with a solution that just doesn't have all these, or that doesn't have any of these problems, then they'll just recognize it and say, all right, I want that. So yes, you will have people who are just religiously attached to a certain technology, and of course, but they're a smaller minority than you would think.
Hi, I'm Chris Barker for DIY Hi-Fi Life, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. I appreciate all the great subscriptions and likes and feedback I've been getting on my videos, especially the most recent review of the Capital Audio Fest that did very well. If you're new, I do ask you to subscribe if possible, and if you like this video and want me to keep making other videos like this, please hit that like button, because Google really counts those things in getting these videos promoted. Today, I have something very exciting to talk about with you today, and that's the new, just announced, Purifi amplifier. This is the follow-along to the ET400 Purifi amplifier that's been out for a couple years now, and it's called the 1ET7040SA. And basically, it's, if you like the ET400, you're going to love the 7040. It's basically more of that Purifi goodness we've come to learn and love, and also ups the ante a bit with increased power and even better specs. I was very lucky to obtain a very early pre-production version of this stereo amplifier with 2 modules in it from Purifi, provided very kindly by Warren Coleman of VTV Amplifier. And I highly suggest you getting in touch with Warren if this type of product interests you. I'm sure he'll be able to help you out very easily. As I said, this is, I think, maybe the only copy of this amplifier as of this video in the country, North America right now, so I'm very privileged to have this opportunity, and I hope to give you at least some insight into what this amplifier is all about and give you my initial impressions and what to maybe look for as this becomes available. The brief specs here, the headline specs are the 7040 has a Sinad of 109, which really is getting right up there, 950 watts into 2 ohms and 40 amps. This is a real powerhouse of an amplifier. You do need a 75 volt PSU power supply to be able to get to those numbers on the output. There's a rumor possibly that Purifi is working on their own power supply. The amplifier I have in the house right now, provided by VTV, is using the Hypex SMP 1200 PSU, which is very common in these types of amplifiers, which puts out about 64 volts. That brings the specs for the amplifier I'm listening to right now to 180 watts into 8 ohms, 360 watts into 4 ohms, and 670 watts into 2 ohms. But again, the Sinad should be still unaffected by that at 109. Comparing that to the previous generation, the current module from Purifi, the 400, that had a Sinad of 104 at 425 watts into 4 ohms and 25 amps. So basically this 7040 basically seems to about double the specs over the 400. To put things in perspective, ASR, the Audio Science Review, who've done yeoman's work in measuring SCADs of amplifiers, among other things, lists the amplifiers in order of Sinad, for example. That's a distortion plus noise calculation. And the current king of that list is, of course, the benchmark AHB2, which has a Sinad of 113. 190 watts into 4 ohms are the specifications on that. The Purifi amp then at 109 Sinad, at least from that standpoint of measurement, is getting very close to that benchmark specification. It's gone unconquered so far. Also, with the VTV amplifier specifically, you have infinite customization capability. I talked about this in a video last year, which I did with the VTV amplifier and the 400 module, and the VTV input buffer, which is kind of a DIY thing, or you can order with that as well. And that gives you many possibilities for customizing the VTV amplifier to tailor to your sounds using different types of op amps from different vendors. The input buffer is designed by Sparkos Labs for VTV, and I am testing with this 7040 amp I have on hand with their SS2590 Pro Discrete op amp. Very nice op amp, and very reasonably priced from the Sparkos Labs website. Of course, you have many op amp choices out there, from very inexpensive all the way to very expensive modules, depending on what you want to accomplish. And there's even a tube input buffer option that VTV could do for you as well. So you really have a lot of ways that you can customize this amp to your liking. I feel, based on my initial testing so far, that this is going to be a real killer amplifier, as I say, a game changer, if you want to use that term. Given the output power and the performance, it will really give a lot of other amplifiers out there a run for their money. Basically, I think this could be, as this turns out, maybe the amp to beat in 2022. We'll see. We'll see what else is on the horizon. Of course, all of these figures are subject to verification. I'm sure Amir at Audio Science Review will do his excellent work and measure this amplifier as soon as he can get his hands on a working copy, and we'll see. But I really, based on the extensive documentation that Purifi provides, I'd be surprised if there's a huge variation from what they're publishing and Amir's test results. But we will see, and we'll be able to verify. I do not know the pricing of this amplifier at this point. That probably remains to be seen, and we'll learn that as time goes on. I'm going to take a wild guess and say basically it's going to be maybe 2x over the 400 module. Could be as much as 3x. I would be surprised if it was much more than that. So that would basically put the new 7040 amp in the $2,000 to $3,000 range, possibly. The stereo VTV 400 based amp that you can buy right now from VTV starts at about $1,100 with the bass input from HiPex. It would be a little more with the VTV buffer. But so if you double that, you're getting into the $2,000 range on up. Still, for something of this quality, power, capability, I would think this is going to be able to drive almost any speakers, and I am going to be testing it with several speakers. I don't see how this amplifier won't be at least competitive. In my initial testing, I like to use a wide variety of tracks, and since I run Roon, I have access basically to the world of music, either from my local NAS drive or from Tidal or Qobuz, and there's just no end of great music to test with. I like to test a wide range of items. You'll see that I'm right now in my living room and I'm listening with my Revell M126BE speakers, which I feel are astounding speakers, and I have them pretty well laid out here in the room and sound excellent and able to really exploit this amplifier in my system. I'm running a benchmark DAC 2 HDS into the VTV amplifier, and I'm using a Raspberry Pi running Ropi, which is the Roon endpoint software, directly USB connected to the benchmark DAC. So this is a very precise, low distortion, I believe very clean signal system. So I should be getting everything out of these recordings that is possible. Talking about my demo playlist for a moment, I have a kind of interesting, eclectic choice for a lot of my demos, and I'll just run through some things real quick here. I started out with Chris Thiele's I Made This from his Thanks for Listening album. Very interesting track. Chris Thiele, of course, is the famous mandolinist, famous for working with Nickel Creek, and now solo, working with many people diversely, such as Brad Meldau and Yo-Yo Ma. They had a project called the Goat Rodeo. He does a lot of work in the kind of classical jazz, acoustic, bluegrass, folk areas, and is very accomplished. This is an interesting track. I Made This. It has a kind of, I think, almost a Beach Boys feel to it. It has a very breathy vocal, and even though it's mostly a acoustic track, has some very low-end bits that aren't always evident on many systems, and with the VTV amplifier, really I was able to hear that low frequencies that are buried in the track and kind of energize the room. Moving on to another interesting track is from album recently from Guy Sigsworth called STET, S-T-E-T. This is his solo album. Guy Sigsworth is a very famous producer, working famously with Imogen Heap in a group called Frou Frou, but he is also in much demand, working with people such as Alanis Morissette and Madonna. Really knows his way around modern recording techniques, VST, synthesizers, plugins, that kind of thing. And the song Barely Breaking Even is the title of the song. Another very nice track, and really energized the room, filling it with sound. Really was outstanding. Moving on to a favorite trumpet player of mine on the ECM label, Matthias Eek. The song Joni from his Scala album, a tribute to Joni Mitchell. Beautiful song. Again, the purity of the tone for the trumpet, which is kind of in the same, frequency range as human voice. Really outstanding as well. Moving to a totally different track, I queued up Massive Attack from their mezzanine album, the classic Teardrop song with Elizabeth Fraser from the Cocteau Twins. And that one was very powerful. The incessant snare drum, kick drum beat of that song, and the burbling background sounds that Massive Attack is famous for was outstanding as well. Another track I like to use is Johnny Cash's song Hurt. I think written by Trent Reznor and of Nine Inch Nails, and from the American Four album, gets produced I think by Jerry Rubin. Very good vocal, and again the background piano and guitar. Just a very moving track, very ominous chord voicings, very cool track. I also like to test out systems using some kind of acoustic bass to really find out how a system is handling those lower registers. But even with acoustic bass, you're getting mid-range and even higher frequencies. So a solo bass has an amazing range when listened to on its own. And Brian Bromberg is one of the best bass players running out there right now, and he has an album that I like to listen to, and the song "The Saga of Harrison Crabfeather" starts out with a beautiful solo bass that I find really tells me a lot about the system. Again, moving on to something different from London Grammar, I listened to the song "Hey Now" from If You Wait. That is another very atmospheric track from a popular group, and there's a point at which a 40 hertz bass tone comes in, so that really energizes the room as well. And that's something I want to talk about a little bit, is I find that in listening to a lot of hi-fi systems, audiophile systems, many I find are rather bass shy and really missing out on what I call energizing the room. A lot of tracks being produced today because of synthesizers and computers and stuff has some awesome bass frequencies, but a lot of polite hi-fi systems sometimes don't do a great job, I think, in reproducing that. And so I find, for me at least, I want to get the whole experience that the producers were intending, and so I've designed my systems at least to try to reproduce some of these tracks. Again, sometimes it's not evident if a system doesn't have the bass low end capability. It's just non-existent. People don't even know they're missing it until they hear it on a really good system. And the London Grammar track is an example of that. Jumping along, another track that I listen to that is excellent for getting dynamics and imaging is a Louis Bellson track from an album called Concerto for Jazz Drummer. It's on the BIS label. This one has an incredible dynamic range. I think a LUFS rating of something like 24, 28. It's only a 16-bit 44K recording, standard CD resolution, but it's astounding in its dynamic range. And if you have never really heard what a real drum trap set sounds like up close, this recording will present it to you in spades, and if your system is up to it, you will have a facsimile of Louis Bellson's drum kit in your listening room. Really outstanding. I'll finish with a brand new album that I recently found out about from Silje Nergard. Probably messed up that pronunciation. I think she's a Norwegian jazz singer, very well known in Norway. The album is called Houses. Excellent new recording, just came out in October. Very well recorded. Again, has excellent imaging, excellent vocal. She does a duet with Kurt Elling, famous male jazz singer. Look that one up as another reference track. This is just a sampling of many tracks that I listened to and found to be outstanding on the new Purifi 7040 amplifier. I was able to obtain a loaner of the benchmark AHB2, the current king, at least from a Sinad standpoint, of amplifiers, and it is widely regarded as a very good amplifier. So I went through my standard listening tests, tracks in the same room and same setup as I was using the VTV amplifier. The bottom line is, I believe that the AHB2 from Benchmark is a truly excellent amplifier. It may appear to be expensive to some people at $3,000, but based on some of the audiophile amplifiers I see of upwards of $50,000, I don't consider that the AHB2 is that expensive. The only other criticism I can say of the AHB2 is that it's only 100 watts, which I think in normal circumstances that would drive most any speaker, but you may have an inefficient speaker. And of course you could buy two AHB2s and using them in bridge mono mode, which should then drive just about anything out there, I would think. But back to comparisons, basically the AHB2 sounded spectacular in my room. I then switched back to the VTV amplifier and it sounded identical to my ears. I would think when we're dealing with amplifiers with Sinads, you know, the distortion plus noise figure above 100, really, I don't think it's most people would be able to tell the difference. Maybe there are golden ears out there. I'm not one of them. I'm just looking for complete clarity and nothing added to my music, and let the speakers that I choose to listen to tell the story. So that's the good news. So basically, I would say if the 7040 module-based amp, such as the VTV amp, comes in approximately $1,000 less, maybe in the $2,000 area, than the AHB2 at $3,000, this is a good news, and you have some choices out there. So that's what I did regarding those two amplifiers. Now I also wanted to test the VTV amplifier again with some other speakers, and I took it down to my home theater system, which is based around the Martin Logan reference 13A speakers I've had for a number of years. Martin Logan speakers, of course, are electrostatic speakers, and they can be a difficult load on amplifiers. In fact, at the high frequencies, Martin Logan speakers go down to the 2 ohm range. In the early days of Class D amplifiers, in fact, I was using it with another pair of Martin Logan speakers, and I could reliably shut down this early Class D amplifier using an acoustic guitar track, amazingly enough. It wasn't a loud bass-heavy thing of that sort. And it would just cause the amplifier to go into protect mode. So the speakers can be a tough load, as I said. I hooked up the VTV amplifier and went through again my list of songs. Everything has sounded as I expected it to, and know it in that room and those speakers. Again, it was, as far as I was concerned, it's transparent to the music. And so I was more than satisfied in its capability to drive even possibly difficult loads, such as the Martin Logan speakers, the electrostatic speakers. So, I'm not using any test equipment, but I'm just using these products as a regular end user would, and trying to get a handle on what is the best or what works best for me. And in my case, the VTV amplifier with the new 7040 module is excellent and transparent, as I said, to the music. It's really nothing else I can say. It has no characteristics that I can tell, and I'm using, as I said before, the benchmark DAC2 HDC, which is fairly highly rated as well, and I think sonically transparent in its presentation. So the only thing left at this point is my room and the speakers I choose to listen to, and I really enjoyed the sound, and I think it's an amp that really is going to really take the market by storm if everything else pans out as far as the measurements and that kind of thing. So those are my comparisons for the VTV amplifier with the 7040 Purifi module. So this has been my look at the new Purifi 7040SA amplifier from Purifi, installed in a VTV amplifier, and my general impressions are that this is going to be a killer amplifier. And I would say if you're looking for amplifiers, thinking about amplifiers in the end of 2021, or well, probably now into 2022, when the availability will be probably better, you want to put this on your short list. I feel that you could spend quite a bit more money than this possibly will be, and not really gain anything from a performance standpoint. You may get a prettier case, a more heavier amplifier or something, but very few amplifiers, when put to the test, both from a measurement standpoint and from a listening standpoint, will probably be able to beat this combination. The Purifi seems to really have their hands on the pulse of amplification in the 20th century, and are just coming from leaps and bounds into new and better products. And I think they're a powerhouse of a company to watch for. So yes, I'm a bit of a fanboy, and I think Bruno Putzeys is delivering the goods so far, and it'll be up to you to do your research and look into it and decide whether I'm all wet or whether you think this could be your next amplifier. So I want to thank everyone for watching. Again, if you could subscribe, that would be great. And if you could hit that like button, that'll be even better. And I've got more videos coming. I've got oodles of ideas to come, and it's just a matter of time and motivation. And the better the videos do, the more motivated I feel to film these videos. So again, thanks for tuning in. This is Chris Barker for DIY HiFi Life, signing out.